Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Tara's Third Thursday webinar. We're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. We usually take the first minute or two to give some time for those folks that are struggling with either their internet technology or just finishing up a call so they can join us on time. So we'll start this at about 3:02 Eastern, about 2 minutes. So just hang tight for us. Thank you. All right, for those that are just joining us, we are allowing a couple of minutes to let those that are having some difficulty with either logging in or just finishing up a previous call to join us. So we're going to get started just a little bit, just a minute or two, late, just to accommodate that. We appreciate all of you that are here on time. And if you are having any issues maybe with connectivity or sound, you can use the chat feature in your control panel to give us a quick message. But other than that, we're going to get started here in just about 60 seconds.
Putting everything on mute so I don't get distracted.
Okay.
We're so connected, right? I got to take off my watch now.
Well, all right. Well, I have on the official timepiece now that it is 3:02 Eastern time, so we're just going to go ahead, Leslie, and get started. To everybody that's on the line, I appreciate you being here on time. Again, this is going to be a recorded session, so if you find it valuable to watch it again or share it with other, your teammates, you'll be able to get that at our GoToMeeting webinar channel. We'll be sending out that link to everybody at the conclusion, probably within about an hour or so of the conclusion of the presentation today. But we want to thank you and welcome you here and for joining us again for Tara's Third Thursday webinar. For those that are kind of regularly join our sessions, you'll know that these sessions are intended to be brief, informative, and hopefully provide you with some news that you can use, designed to kind of enhance your knowledge, your operations, and your bottom line. Before we get started, there are a couple of announcements that I would like to just go over here briefly. One is a clarification on something that we announced last month, which is that Tara is a sponsor of the 2022 Electronics Reuse Conference in Denver in November. It's November 13th to the 16th. And we have secured exclusively for our members a 50% discount on attendee registrations. And that also includes any virtual registrations for those that might not be able to go but want to watch it virtually. The same promo code works for that. So 50% discount, but that discount is limited time only. So that's only going to be available until our next Tara Third Thursday webinar, which is scheduled for June 19th. After that, our promo code is going to be changing and it'll only be for $50 off the amount. So right now you get 50% off. So take advantage of that if you're planning on going. Our second announcement is related to an idea that I've teased for a while now, which is providing some more interactive opportunities for our members to work together. And we talked about in some sessions past about doing some committees that are based on our members versus kind of Tara being a moderating factor in that. And we got the first of those that we're ready to announce, and that's going to be a Tara marketing committee. And graciously, we've had a couple of our members offer to kind of be the nucleus of this new group. It's Wally Greaves with C2, Daniel Spalding with Battery Solutions, and Josh Lake with Relectro. They're going to be putting together a session. We have it tentatively kind of scheduled for June 12th, where they wanted to do a session to talk about organizations like all the different organizations that are in our space, and talk a little bit about the conferences as well. So more information to come on that, but we're very pleased that those three individuals have kind of stepped up and wanted to do something here for us and for our entire membership. But today's webinar, as I mentioned, is brief. It's only 45 minutes and we're already on the clock, so we're going to get right into it. If you have any questions during this presentation, everybody's going to remain on mute except myself. use the chat feature, use the questions feature. I'll be moderating that during the course of the presentation. And if opportunities to jump in with and speak to Leslie during her presentation crop up, I will. If some time allows at the end, I'll definitely ask the questions at the end. But as I mentioned at the very beginning here, we got a great show for you today. It's being hosted by Leslie Washington with Blue Beacon. She will be our host. So she's going to be talking about certifications from a strategic versus a tactical approach, which I think is going to be very interesting. A mentor of mine, especially in the sales arena, used to always tell me that sales comes from three things, and that's attitude, activity, and skill. But the first checkpoint on that to realize your results is attitude. And, that's something that you bring to the table. It's your mindset that you come in with every day. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Leslie's going to be presenting about is not the tactical details of this certification versus another, but, kind of the approach that you take when you're thinking about why I'm going to be doing any one of these certifications. What's it mean for us and our bottom line in our business? So I'm really excited about that. Leslie herself, she's very energetic, highly resourceful, and educated professional with over 25 years of experience and a host of different things. I see here that she's been a paramedic, been involved with HR management, and of course has been in the e-waste and ITAD space for some time. She excels at creating innovative solutions to complex problems, and her approach to implementation is very dynamic. Her specialty is working with companies to help them achieve their certifications, and that's the certifications to multiple standards with minimal disruption to your business. And she does all of that with a smile. So with that, I will pass it along to Leslie. And if you need me, just holler, and we'll all be listening in. We appreciate you, and we'll talk at the end. Take care.
All right, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to spend my afternoon with you all today, but we'll jump right into it. Not a moment wasted, right? Today, we're talking about tactical compliance. And if you're wondering what Blue Beacon is, we provide management system consulting. I'm not big on reading slides, so I'll let you get through most of the reading on your own. I do want to stress that we're not just talking about the obvious ROI from certification itself, but the efficiencies and the improvements that you gain from a real implementation in your management system. So again, we're talking about tactical compliance. So why tactical compliance? Well, not only to honor our military on Memorial Day, but also because the word tactical is related to carrying out small scale actions to serve a bigger purpose. So we're talking about tactical compliance because the philosophy is intended to be applied to each of your individual processes. So production, testing, shipping and receiving, so on and so forth. I've helped multiple businesses actually, use this approach to decentralize their operation of their management system with tremendous success. It works because instead of having a single manager, supervisor, generalist, specialist managing all of the organization's requirements without intimate knowledge of the process, and let's be honest, the energy, you have process owners that are using their specific knowledge and individual leadership to engage their groups and functions on a more meaningful level. So not just checking boxes. So the agenda for today, again, not big on reading slides. About a year ago, I watched Admiral William McRaven present a commencement speech that started with making your bed. I was inspired by what he explained and read his book, Make Your Bed. After that, my husband began listening to Jocko Willnick's podcast literally 24 hours a day. I was motivated, perhaps by osmosis, to read his book, Extreme Ownership, and began following his company, Echelon Front. I didn't see the real relevance to my client's business at first. Honestly, I just thought it was kind of cool. Later, I started to see the parallels and the synergy between the ideas that are discussed by these highly decorated soldiers and practical ways to meet ISO and other standard requirements and ultimately enhance your business performance. Many people look at standards as a set of rigid, disruptive, or uncomfortable rules, but in reality, they're an outline for the perfect business plan. So we're going to start at the beginning. Know thyself. For each of these steps, we've added the related clause of the ISO standard to make it a little easier to reference. Yes, believe it or not, we're talking about organizational context here. Throughout the presentation, you may see certain terms like enemy. Think the competition. When you see battle, think the market. So how is this quote by Sun Tzu related to organizational context? I'm so glad you asked. Know thyself or understand your organizational context means know your business, its scope and processes. Know what internally and externally could impact it, including your competitors, the market, employees, regulatory requirements. It's also known as a SWOT analysis. Know what your customers, employees, vendors, partners, or governmental agencies expect of you. If you don't know exactly who your organization is and exactly what you do and exactly who you do it for, you can't plan and execute successful strategies or mitigate risks, exercise opportunities effectively. If you don't know your competition, the market, and the business environment you operate in, you're taking a long and perilous road to success. So know your business, its scope, processes, strengths, weaknesses, all of those things. You're going to need it if you want to get better, if you want to progress. Next is extreme leadership. Jocko talks about this as extreme ownership. And one of the things that he talks about, we'll talk about in a couple of slides, but it's when we say extreme, we mean extreme. Many of you are probably wondering why I'm not speaking specifically about R2 or e-stewards or RIOS, and I'm using the ISO clauses. It's because these standards largely represent an extension of what the ISO standard intends. They simply introduce additional areas where you need to apply the ISO philosophies we're discussing right now. So I'm not going to reference R2 or e-stewards or any of that directly. Sorry if anybody's disappointed.
Nah.
So as a business leader, owner, manager, supervisor, you are setting the standard for your company, your department, your team, and your management system. Act accordingly. People are watching. So it's not what you preach, it's what you do. If you don't embrace the standards or your management system, it won't be taken seriously by anyone else. Believe in what you're doing or no one else will either. You must believe that the reasons for the implementation of your management system or business practices at large involve improved business performance. If you don't, no one else will. Here's where extreme ownership and extreme leadership come into play. You are responsible for everything that happens, everything. So we can't blame our suppliers, our downstream vendors, our staffing agencies, equipment companies. These issues ultimately come down to either your action or your inaction. So take responsibility. You're more likely to make a change. Don't spectate, participate, involve yourself. Really look at the metrics and, dare I say, audit reports. At the end of the day, you're the one that's responsible for it. Listen to your people too. That's huge. The folks that are doing the thing every day have probably one of the better perspectives on different ways to achieve the end goal. When we talk about general principles, we're talking about your QEHS or your IMS policy. It should really represent the guiding principles of your company and your management system, and everyone should know what that is. Finally, individuals thrive and perform considerably better when they know what their job is, what the goals are, what their responsibilities are, and ultimately what they're accountable to.
What's that one thing would you say that, you know, from a leadership standpoint, that people would miss the mark? Or is there a particular area, or is there something that, you know, they need to really focus on when they get a project started?
It's not what you preach, it's what you do. Believing that you need to implement, whether it's R2 or an ISO standard or a best business practice. If you think that it's cool or it's novel and so you want to take it on, but you don't actively participate and support the project, then it's bound for failure, or worse yet, it's going to be something that pulls you back rather than pushes you forward.
Yeah, and I imagine also delays and makes things more expensive.
Also that, yes. So you as a leader, you need to be dedicated to demonstrating your leadership and commitment to your organizational goals and management system by taking responsibility and accountability. Huge. Establishing objectives, ensuring integration into your business processes. That's a big one too. If you look at your certification standards and how you run your business as two kind of separate silos, you're really not going to get the greatest benefit out of your certification, and that's really what we want. Having a piece of paper on the wall, it's kind of the equivalent of having a degree, right? We went through school, we did the thing, we wrote the papers, we walked across the stage, but how much of that are we really using when we go about our day-to-day business or our day-to-day activities? It's really entirely up to you. The most important part, again, I say that there's lots of important parts. Participating in it, management reviews, participating in audits, participating in training. It's really important, and it sets the example for the rest of your staff. I think the title of this one says it all. Strategy is essential. So planning and creating a business strategy helps companies track and measure achievements of its stated business objectives. It keeps everyone marching in the right direction by providing a unified structure. It can also help predict potential challenges or opportunities that could appear in the course of getting it done. That will give your group that winning edge that they need to make it through whatever challenge or whatever rough waters you're hitting. And I think it's safe to say today's market presents its own bunch of novel problems that we're encountering. So strategy or planning is one of the most critical components of a sustainable victory. You don't just plan once, and you physically can't plan reactively. Violates the time-space continuum, and it's literally impossible. If you see change coming, plan for it. Ensure that it's carried out smoothly and eliminate as many surprises as possible. Don't get caught with your pants down. Assess your business processes and prepare to address weaknesses or capitalize on opportunities. Understand the mission and what the expected outcome is. This last one is pretty near and dear to my heart as well. Set SMART goals. So they need to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Don't create objectives to appease an auditor or a standard. Develop them because they improve your organization in some way, even if it's small. I see this a lot when I'm out on third-party CV audits, and it's really just a waste of everyone's time and effort. If you're going to create an objective, make sure that it's something meaningful and value-added for your organization.
And let me just jump in here for a second. I love SMART goals. SMART goals are, kind of a guiding principle behind, a lot of the things that by myself I know for certain, and Clarence Hollins, our Chief Development Officer, are really behind. We preach those to people. We do sales consulting with folks, and we're always talking about, especially our sales people that we're working with to do those, but it's really something that can be adopted organization-wide. Make sure that all your people are working on ways to improve themselves. If you're just focused on things in their lives that are based around their performance at work, you're not looking at the whole picture. Their performance at work is being impacted by so many other different parts of their wheel of life that's being maybe a little bit out of kilter. And helping people achieve goals, whether they're small, big or small, in a manner that uses that process can really be a powerful tool to build camaraderie and to build focus within an organization. So, if you want to look at an area that I think all of our members can improve their workforce, adopt SMART goals. And now I'm off my.
I couldn't agree more. No, I completely agree. Thank you. So when we plan, we want to plan to make sure that we can achieve our intended outcomes as an organization. We want to plan to mitigate risks, environmental impacts, health and safety hazards, legal non-compliance, for contingencies. So in the event of an emergency, break glass, Hopefully the plan is a little more fleshed out than that, but I think you get what I'm saying. We want to plan to improve and evaluate our performance. And although it may sound contradictory to everything that I just said, remain flexible. You aren't married to every single plan. If it isn't working, you are fully authorized to modify it. Don't change the goal, change the plan. Cover and move. So here we're talking about ISO Clause 7 or support. Your people, particularly individual process owners, equipment, facilities, suppliers, vendors, all of it has to operate as a single unit and be cared for to ensure continued victory. Some of the questions that you need to ask yourself is, what kinds of people are you going to need to meet your organizational goals and objectives and execute your plans? What kind of training are they going to need? Probably most importantly of all on this slide is, how will you make sure that folks are absorbing the training that you're providing? So another way to ask this is, was the training effective in teaching them the necessary skills or instilling the critical knowledge? It's a waste of time to sit folks in a class or in front of a computer if they aren't getting it and can't put it into practice. Other questions: what is necessary to ensure that the equipment and facilities continue to operate effectively or efficiently? Have you implemented preventive maintenance? Are you taking care of things? What needs to be communicated to whom and by whom? And what processes need to be documented? This is a question that I get a lot, so I'll help you out with this. Begin documenting the ones that you feel are most critical to meeting the requirements of your management system, or to ensure that everything that you want to happen in a department or in a process or in an organization, that those are the ones that are documented. Okay, this one was just for laughs, to be honest. Really don't have much to say about it.
You can't have military quotes without doing something from Chesty Puller. I think it's
right. I would be remiss. So here's where the rubber meets the road. This is where we put into action the plans that we've made and the resources that we've cultivated. It's also where we're kind of doing a dual thing here, where we address measuring and monitoring and evaluation of our performance. So if you're executing your activities as you've planned and are monitoring the performance of your requirements, then you'll experience fewer storms, fewer unexpected situations and mistakes. But what's more is you'll be able to minimize their impact when they do happen. And secondly, keep it simple. If instructions are too complicated, people won't understand. If they don't understand, they're less likely to follow them. One of the surest ways to set your team up for failure is to make tasks and initiatives overly complicated. This isn't an MBA capstone project or a final dissertation. With all of that in mind, though, make sure that they do contain the necessary specifics needed for accurate execution. Make sure that what needs to be controlled is significant processes, those that are critical to the operation of your organization, downstream vendors, inputs, outputs, traceability. Ensure that you're compliantly applying legal requirements and the appropriate controls. Never stop monitoring, measuring, analyzing, and evaluating. Keep a list of what's important. Internal audits are your friend. I'm serious. This is not a joke. There's no better way to know what level you're performing at than being tested. Don't perform management reviews annually because that's what's easy or that's all that's required. Make them part of your regular business process. You're likely performing management reviews more often than you think. But on the flip side of that, make sure that you're communicating the parts of them that are relevant to their jobs and to them.
Absolutely there. I mean, that's that M in SMART goal, measurable. That we've all played the game when we were kids of hot cold. Trying to find an object in a room. Giving people feedback is really empowering, and make sure that and help them along that they're on the right track. So, yeah, like you mentioned, an annual review, review should be ongoing. If you have goals and you have processes that you're following, continuous feedback and a continuous feedback loop will help improve all those processes.
And when you hold management reviews, really take a look at what you want to talk about. Take ISO completely off the table. Talk about the things that you think are important to your organization. And I will almost guarantee you that if I looked at the minutes of that meeting, I could match them up to what's in the standard. It gets overly cumbersome to go, okay, so we've got to talk about these inputs and these inputs, and we've got to talk about resources. And yeah, you're probably already doing it, so you don't need to make it uncomfortable. So don't just settle for meeting requirements. That's aspiring to be average. If you're like me, that's simply unacceptable. Leverage your monitoring and measurement activities to actually become the best instead of just meh. So finally, discipline equals freedom. Improvement is where you correct deficiencies, reset your efforts, and begin again. You've heard the saying that it's all about progress, not perfection. That is an absolute fact. You and your team are bound to make mistakes. Everyone does. I try to make at least 3 a day.
Only?
Completely joking. Only. No, those are my intentional mistakes, just so I can get them out of the way. I try to make those by 7 o'clock in the morning. Instead of holding yourself and others to unattainable heights and living in a world of inaction and analysis paralysis, promote positive risks. Mistakes are a stepping stone upon which progress is made. This is not a typo. I intended to put corrective action 3 times, yes. And it's because root cause analysis and corrective action is the single best tool for improving your organization or your management system. That's right, I said it. Consider the results of incidents, nonconformities, evaluation and performance and compliance, everything. Identify trends that you can shift, that you can change. Think maximum impact and minimum effort. If you start there, then sooner or later those tasks, those activities, or those trends that you're looking to shift that appear to have a higher level of effort now seem a lot easier because you've kind of cleared away the low-hanging fruit. Consider advances in technology, industry best practices, suggestions, and achieving improved performance with fewer resources. This is a particularly important one right now in the labor and raw material market that we're operating in. The pictures on this and the next slides are actual photos of the amazing individuals that I've quoted, that I've borrowed their wisdom throughout this presentation. If you don't recognize Sun Tzu, then that's okay. Not many of us probably would. Next to the right of him is General Colin Powell. Colonel David Hatworth is on the bottom left, and Lieutenant Commander Jacko Welnick on the bottom right. So I think good old George had it right. We know who we are and what we do, plan for success, carry out the plans as we've prescribed them, monitor our progress, and commit to improving. There's no limit to what we can accomplish. Whether you're winning a war or succeeding in business, it's about winning the smaller battles that put you in a position to be victorious, or put simply, operating tactically. On this slide from left to right again, Colonel Lewis Puller, General Douglas MacArthur, President and General George Washington, and Admiral Ernest King. So that concludes my presentation for today. Have a wonderful Memorial Day, and I appreciate your participation. I'm happy to take any questions anyone might have.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Leslie. You got my brain turning. I don't know what it was when I first kind of was reviewing your presentation. I didn't pick up that at first that all of these folks were military folks. I don't know why, but anyway, it's now sunk in. So I was thinking here at the very end as you were going through all the names, one of the quotes, one of the military quote that came to my mind as you were kind of going through the last year presentation there was, General Patton, that a pint of sweat will save a gallon of blood. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in terms of human life. It can be in terms of employees. Recruiting good employees is extremely difficult right now, and hanging on to them is just as challenging. To be an organization that is focused on being the best, on having procedures in place, having feedback loops, and, improving and helping all the folks that work for the organization, those are the kind of types of organizations people want to work for. They're the type of organizations that hold and maintain employees for years. And all of these things that you discussed today, I think, are really focused around that as being one of the ultimate benefits of that, is that in a challenging employment market, you want to keep your best people, and you want to keep your best people by showing them that they're at the place that they really need to be. And that was one of the the takeaways I had from today. But in terms of kind of some follow-up and additional questions I had, so culture change, or it's a big pill to swallow for some folks. I mean, where are simple places that people might be able to start in terms of kind of developing some of these systems internally and switching over to a different mindset?
Really, I think it starts back at the beginning. What do you want to accomplish, and who do you want to accomplish it for, and why does that party care? What's important to them. Most of everybody on the call today, and I know you for certain, Stephen, after the multitude of conversations that we've had, you've likely already kind of zeroed in on that. Once you have that, you need to plan. I think that's something that a lot of folks leave out, because it's not really exciting, right? It's not very active. Takes a lot of thought. You can't do it all at once. You just can't sit down and plan everything. It's an ongoing battle. So I think really just starting at the beginning, and even if you think you already know it, walking through the process and walking through it multiple times, multiple iterations. Every time you walk through it, just like putting my presentation together, for example, every time you go through it, you find little ways to make it a little bit better, or a little bit more beneficial.
That's interesting that you say in planning. I know, your small business, there are a lot of small business owners that make up Terra. And I think planning is a very difficult process for a lot of our folks to follow, because they're entrepreneurs. They have an entrepreneurial spirit. They kind of take things as it comes, and are able to roll with the punches, and feel like, well, if I'm too tied to a strict plan, I'm not going to be able to be creative enough to take advantage of opportunities as they come in, as they present themselves. And I think, I totally 100% agree with you that a failure to plan is a recipe for disaster. So I'm really kind of taking that to heart. I definitely fail in terms of writing down the plans that are in here enough. They're there, and I do document them, but I do kind of get lazy with that bit of it sometimes. It's good to get reminded of it.
Well, as I've told you before, I do a quarterly presentation to my husband, and a big one at the end of the year that outlines what plans there are for Blue Beacon and how I intend to go about achieving them. And at each quarter, we're measuring exactly how far I've gotten, if I've met the individual hurdles that I want to meet or that I need to meet. And he's brutal, man. You'd think we weren't even married. I think I told you last week, I finally got to the point where I don't cry anymore.
Well, feedback comes in all forms by all people, and some of it's harder to swallow than others. Well, excellent. Well, again, thank you very much. We're gonna, sign off here, but again, I just want a quick reminder to everybody. Our third Thursday webinar next month is going to be, I believe it's June the 16th. I think I said that already, June the 19th. And that's also the deadline for our, 50% discount to the e-reuse conference that will expire then. I'll be sending this out to everybody, but for those that are still watching here, that promo code is TERRA ERC22. So that is what's going to get you 50% off on your attendee and virtual attendee pass. And then, of course, we'll also be providing some additional information here very shortly from our marketing group. Again, tentative date for that is June the 12th, and that's going to be that's hosted by our members, Wally Greaves, Daniel Spalding, and Josh Lake, with C2 Battery Solutions and Relectro, respectively. So look forward to seeing you all next month. And again, Leslie, thank you very much. We appreciate all of your insight today. Everybody have a great rest of their day and a great rest of their week. Take care.
You too. Thank you.